The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Dean Modis. I'm very pleased to introduce Miss Amanda Hancock of Brekke Tours. I'm with Hurtigruten, and so before we start, let's just we'll do a few little housekeeping items here. That you should be seeing a screen with Hurtigruten and the Brekke Tours logo, along with my name and along with Amanda's, and you should be seeing that full screen, and you should be hearing us in a good shape here. We'd recommend that you turn off any other programs such as Outlook or any of your email programs, because that does take away on bandwidth, and so sometimes that will interfere with the presentation. And so if you can shut those down. We also have a chat box over on the right-hand side of the screen, so if you have any questions at all, you can type those in, and Amanda will be taking those questions down, and then at the very end of the presentation, we'll go back and we'll try to answer those questions to the best of our abilities. So Amanda, if I can turn it over to you for a few moments, and you can give a brief introduction here, and we'll go ahead and start the presentation about the Norwegian experience from Vikings to the heroes of World War II.
Thanks, Dean, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. We are really happy to be working with Hurtigruten on these two special voyages that they're offering this year. We were trying to offer a Norway during World War II tour, but unfortunately our tour guide has become ill, and so he's not going to be able to join us this year. So if you're still interested in visiting Norway and learning more about this fascinating time period during the Norwegian history, then Hurtigruten has this great opportunity, and this is what we're here today to learn about, about this cruise and about the Viking experience that you can take with Hurtigruten. So, Dean, let's get it going.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Amanda. Okay. Getting started here. We are a Norwegian company, and there are very few companies in the world that are truly identified with a country. And it used to be like Pan American was always identified with the United States. Well, Hurtigruten is really identified with the country of Norway. That we are part of the national fabric. We've been around for a very, very long time, and no matter where you go within the country, you mention the word Hurtigruten and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. So today we're going to talk about the Viking experience, that we have a special departure schedule that actually will begin on September the 2nd, and it is a Viking experience that'll be talking about Viking history and the Viking culture and that. And then we have a 8-day remembering the heroes of World War II, which will be on our southbound cruise. And so we're kind of combining the best of both worlds here, so you can actually take the Viking experience, or you can take the World War II experience, or you can actually combine the two. So those are the two major topics of which we'll be discussing today. So who is Hurtigruten? We're not a household name. We're not like a Holland America or a Princess Cruises or any of your more familiar names. But actually we're a company with a very, very long and very rich history. We've actually been in business for 121 years. We first started carrying people and mail up the coast of Norway 121 years ago, and now we are one of the major companies providing transportation services within the country. We used to be known as the mail boat because for such a long time we actually carried the mail going up along the coast to all the little small communities and major cities and small towns, and we still are an active force in the area in that we do carry light cargo to some of the communities, and so we are the essential lifeline. But overall, we do provide wonderful transportation services to our guests in the term of an actual voyage. We operate 12 ships, and 11 of these ships actually operate along the Norwegian coast, going from Bergen up to Kirkenes. We have an expedition ship known as the MS Fram that operates in Spitsbergen, which is an archipelago that's off the northern coast of Norway, which is known for its polar bears. We also visit Greenland during the course of our summer months. We also visit Iceland, along with Antarctica. But our primary focus today is actually going to be on the Norwegian experience. We operate 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and that makes us very unique. So we have a ship that's leaving every day going from Bergen going north, and of course we have a ship every day leaving Kirkenes coming south going back down to Bergen. So again, we are part of that essential lifeline. We are actually able to travel through the fjords, so going into these small communities, many times we actually travel through these fjords, and what this does is it offers a great viewing opportunity for you to see, truly phenomenal nature. You're seeing the cliffs and the deep gorges, and this is a phenomenal experience. It's one that is really second to none. We also visit the major cities such as Allison. Then this was for those of you interested in the history of World War II. This is a place that is rich in World War II history. There were actually German U-boats based out of this city. It is a very important stop for us. It's also the gateway to the fjord country. We also go into the small villages such as Solvær and that up in the Lofoten Islands. So these are some of the small communities, and the only way to get in and out is actually via the Hurtigruten vessels. But one of the most important aspects is the camaraderie that we find on board, the fact that you're actually traveling with people with like interests from throughout the world. We have people from the UK, from Germany, from Australia, even South America, traveling along with folks from North America, U.S., and also Canada. And it's really interesting. The first day out, everyone kind of sticks with their own little national group, and then as the cruise progresses, people actually will the national barriers go down, and people begin conversing, and it's a great way to share experiences and culture. But it's also really important that because we're carrying local traffic, so we do carry a lot of Norwegians that are just going from port to port. And I have a favorite story that I like to tell that this occurred actually this past November. We had a lady from Sacramento, California that was traveling on board, and she was researching her family history. And she had a file folder about an inch thick, and it was all in Norwegian. She knew it was about her family, but it had never been translated. Well, she met one of the locals on board, and he translated these papers for her, and she discovered that her great-grandfather had crowned one of the kings of Norway, and he was buried in the Trondheim churchyard. Well, there was an old faded photograph of this gravesite, so our little group of people, we're numbering about 10 or 12 people, and we decided that when we got into Trondheim, we were going to try to find great-granddad. And guess what? We got off the ship, we made a beeline for the churchyard, and we broke up into where each person took a row, and we went up and down the rows. We were there about 10 minutes when a lady from Toronto yells, "I think I found it." And sure enough, the name was right, the dates were right. And this is one of the really unique aspects, one of the neat things that happens aboard Hurtigruten, is that the unexpected happens. It's real. It's nothing that's contrived. You think of a regular cruise, you think of floor shows in Las Vegas style entertainment. We don't have that, but what we do give is a true, live, real experience. So who is our customer? Well, we find that we carry a lot of multi-generational folks. Adults, children, middle age, across the board, but they share some common traits. We have the active engagers, the people that want to go out and take the jet boat rides and have the exhilarating feeling of skimming across the water. We also have those folks that are interested in seeing wildlife. Because of where we go and the fact that the Norwegian coast is full of sea eagles and whales, there's that aspect as well. And then, of course, there is the cultural aspect. Norway is very rich in culture, and you can learn about the history of the country, the Sami people. In this case, we're going to be learning about Viking history along with that of World War II, and so it's all part of that experience. And so the fact that we can combine the exhilarating aspects with culture along with wildlife makes the Hurtigruten experience something very unique for our guests, something that you won't find anywhere else. For our series of cruises that we have, these will actually be departing on September 2nd, and we have a special onboard lecturer. His name is Dr. Terje Jern, and he is the professor of Scandinavian Studies at the University of Washington. And those of you that are familiar with Washington know that we have a very, very large Scandinavian community here. And Terje, he has been a research scholar at the University of Oslo. He's also been a visiting professor at the University of Oslo, and he's a native of Bergen. And he's a great speaker. He has great stories about growing up in Bergen. His parents were actually there during World War II, and so he has a lot of great experiences in which to convey. And the fact that he actually teaches Viking culture and also Norwegian history on a college level makes him the perfect onboard lecturer and also host. So we're very, very lucky to have Terje with us. And we'll be talking more about what he'll be presenting as we go on throughout the presentation. So we have our Norwegian Experiences voyages. We will begin in Bergen and cruise all the way up to Kirkenes for our Norwegian heritage, or the Viking heritage, and from Kirkenes going back down to Bergen. So you can take a full 13-day round trip for the complete Norwegian experience. Or you have the 7-day Viking coast, which is going up from Bergen, going up to Kirkenes. We have the 8-day Remembering the Heroes of World War II, which is coming back down from Kirkenes back down to Bergen. We will actually cruise about 1,100 miles of coastline. Now, if any of you have ever cruised to Alaska before, the Norwegian coast is very much like Alaska's Inside Passage. We're actually cruising back behind many of the islands, and so we get a relatively smooth ride. There's only about 4 areas that we cross that have any open ocean at all, and we usually do those at night, so we get a fairly smooth ride. And also, too, it's also fairly temperate because the Gulf Stream comes up along the coast of Norway from North America, and so it keeps the area relatively warm despite being this far north. So we're going to be visiting the pristine fjords that we had spoken about earlier. We're going to be making 34 ports of call. Now, those of you that have taken cruises before and have never traveled with Hurtigruten, you're saying, how do you make 34 ports of call in only 7 days? Well, some of our ports of call are as short as 30 minutes and some are as long as 6 hours. And so it just depends upon the port of call. But we actually have shore excursions where you stop in one port, you actually get off the ship, go inland for the day, and catch a ship later in the day 2 or 3 ports up line. And so this is something that's very unique. So this allows you as the guest to experience not only the coast, but also the interior of the country as well. So we visit the major cities, along with the small villages that are important both to the World War II history, along with the Viking heritage. So we're going to talk about the Viking coast here. Now the Vikings, if you watch the TV show Vikings, you would think that all they did was simply pillage and run about Europe. And while there was a fair degree amount of that, the Vikings really brought in a lot of culture. They also brought trade into Western Europe. And this is really a very important aspect because most of Central Europe was actually a little bit on the rough and tumble side during the time of the Vikings, and actually the Vikings brought quite a bit of culture. Also, too, they were great explorers. There's a strong belief that the Vikings actually made it to North America prior to Columbus, that they sailed across to Iceland and then Greenland and then actually ended up on the east coast of Canada and also the United States. And when I was putting the presentation together, I got thinking, what if the Norwegians or what if the Vikings had actually really realized what they had found? Can you imagine Columbus's surprise pulling up to North America and finding the Indians speaking Norwegian? Just a little point to ponder there. So we're going to begin our cruise in the city of Bergen. Now, Bergen is the country's second largest city. It's a very gorgeous city, as you see here. This picture was actually taken last April, not far from the port, and it is on the UNESCO World Heritage Site because of its old Hanseatic seaport buildings and that. So you're going to find a lot of culture here. It's also a great way to possibly even come in a day early and kind of get over the jet lag. Or if you've flown into Oslo, take the train across. It's a wonderful train ride as well. So that's something that Brekke can arrange for you. This is the old waterfront. These buildings were built back in the 1700s, and these are old warehouses and offices that have been turned into very chic shops and restaurants, and just a great place to start your journey. So we're going to welcome you aboard the Nord-Norge, which will be our ship for this voyage. This is our ship's hotel manager, and it's a very sincere welcome on board. As you see, we have a very, very modern terminal here just off the ship, and this is where you'll be boarding from. And this is our ship, the Nord-Norge. She carries just over 600 passengers on an overnight basis, and she's large enough to have all the amenities that you would expect to find aboard a great ship, but she's also small enough to get back into the narrow fjords and passageways. And the Nord-Norge is just a wonderful platform in which to truly experience Norway. First, we'll go to our cabins. As you see, they're quite well designed. Most of our outside staterooms are actually twins, and they're very well designed, as I said, so everything is very functional. And one of the really great things that they have is if you look over on the bathroom wall there to the left, you're going to see two switches. Well, one of those switches is for the light. The other one is for your heated bathroom floor. So when you step out of the shower in the morning, that floor is all nice and toasty. It's just a little bit of an added benefit to Hurtigruten. We also have suites on board as well that are quite spacious, as you see here. So you've got a large king-size bed, desk, and actually our suites are actually 2 rooms, so that if you so desire, you can actually have space aboard the ship in this regard. This is our dining room. We have 2 seatings for dinner, and we do feature a lot of Norwegian fare. We also do a lot of local sourcing, so we're picking up fresh fruits and vegetables so we're going along the coast going up north. And in September, because of the long days, we still have access to those really, really fresh items. And so this is very, very typical of what you'll find aboard our vessels. We also have complimentary internet at our internet cafe, and so these computers are free for you to use. We also have complimentary internet if you bring your iPad or iPhone along that you can use from the public areas, and you can access the ship's internet from there. So again, there is no charge for this, which makes us also very unique. We also have some great lounges on board. At the forward lounge, you actually have a 240-degree view of the scenery, so you can look out at the front of the ship and out to the sides in just total comfort. So taking our imaginary cruise, we're going to wake up the first morning coming into the city of Allison. Just a very, very nice morning here, standing out on deck with that fantastic fresh air. We'll start off the morning with a wonderful breakfast buffet. And this is very much like a fine European hotel. So we got a choice of eggs, fresh fruits, muesli, oatmeal, and the like, and it's again a wonderful day just a wonderful way to start the day. Our first major port of call will be the city of Allison, and there to the left you'll see our ship, the Nord-Norge, at dock. And this was a very important city, especially during World War II, because there were sub-pens here, and you can still see those as you walk through the city. And there's a great road that goes up to the top of the city that you can actually overlook the area, and there are old German gun emplacements up there that where the concrete is about 15 feet thick that you can actually have a commanding view of the harbor. Now for Allison, this is the gateway to the fjord country. Now in September, we'll not be going into Geringer Fjord, but we're going into another fjord called Hungerfjord, which is equally as spectacular. But travel should be a sensual experience. And when I say sensual, I'm talking about seeing, touching, hearing, and feeling. We get close to these waterfalls. You can actually see them. You can hear the water cascading down the side of the mountains, and you can smell that fresh air, and you can feel that spray. And this is what brings travel alive. Then going along the coast, we have numerous lighthouses that you'll see along the way, and each of the communities has a lighthouse, and sometimes even more than that, and other ones that are also pointing out the rugged coastline here, and that has its own degree of charm. Now for our dining, as I mentioned before, that we do have 2 seatings for dinner. Our staff is entirely Scandinavian. They're all fluent in English. In fact, English is the second language on the ship, which is very, very important. Also, to our staff is they are paid by European wage scales, and so therefore we do not have any tipping on board the ship. So it's just a nice little touch there that tipping in Norway is not an accepted practice. It's not expected, and so that's just a nice little touch there that our staff is there to serve you, not to earn tips, and it is a nice touch. Our next major port of call will be the city of Trondheim, and this is a city where I had mentioned about the lady from Sacramento. Now, there's a lot of Viking history here, and one of the major points here is the Nidaros Cathedral. Now, St. Olaf, which was really one of the last great Viking kings and also began Christianity in Norway, is actually buried here on the grounds. They're not sure where, but legend has it that he is buried here. But the cathedral here, this is really the seat of the Lutheran Church for Norway. This is where the kings and kings are crowned, and it's a very, very special part of Norwegian culture and of course history. And so we do have an included tour here for the participants in the Norwegian Experience itinerary. This is the gravestone that I mentioned. This is a lady from Sacramento, and you can see, you know, it kind of towers above her. But again, this is part of that experience that comes alive when you travel aboard Hurtigruten, that the unexpected can and often does happen. Then just going up along the coast, and of course we'll be going in September, and you're going to be getting some beautiful colors. The Norwegian coastline is very, very, or at least the southern part is very rich in the deciduous trees. So we experience a lot of color in this area, the golds and greens and reds of the autumn. And so this is really one of my favorite times to travel, and I've done this trip numerous times, and the September-October time frame is absolutely phenomenal. All of our trips cross the Arctic Circle. And of course, with the Vikings, they were known for their seafaring ways, and so they were actually sailed out of many little of the fjords and towns in this area, and many of them actually lived above the Arctic Circle. Then we come into the Lofoten Islands. Now, the Lofoten Islands, a very, very picturesque area. We have the town of Solvær here, and also Stamsted, and this is also where Viking culture really comes alive. In fact, we have an included tour to the Viking Feast Museum, and we actually visit one of the traditional Viking dwellings that's actually been reconstructed. And this is where the Viking culture really comes alive. We have the people working there at the museum are actually dressed in period costume. They will talk to you in the old tongue, and of course they'll translate everything going into English, so that you really almost experience firsthand what Viking life was like. You'll learn about how they slept, many of the, and also how they cooked. You will actually have a Viking meal in the very traditional sense, and so this is a very hands-on kind of experience that you'll actually be experiencing. And then of course they will wave goodbye, and so hopefully when you leave Stamsted, you will actually feel like you are a true and real Viking. Then going north, we come into the city of Tromsø. Tromsø is the country's fourth largest city. It is above the Arctic Circle, and over to the right you'll see the Arctic Cathedral. There are numerous museums here. There is a Viking museum here, along with one that is dedicated to the Arctic explorers, which is extremely interesting because this is where Roland Amundsen, that he was actually from the Tromsø area, and so they have a museum that is dedicated to this great explorer. They have his original journals, his sleds, and many of the clothes and tools that he took with him on his various expeditions to the Arctic as well as the Antarctic. And then we have the Arctic Cathedral. The Arctic Cathedral here is absolutely a wonderful sight. It's a very, very beautiful church with this beautiful stained glass window. Then we come up to the city of Hurtigruten and the North Cape. The North Cape is the northernmost point on the European continent. And of course, during September, we'll be having great weather. And there's this beautiful globe that is built out on this promontory that stands up above the Arctic Ocean. And it's just a grand sight. There's also a wonderful visitor center here that explains the culture and history of the region. Because this is where the Sami people were from. These are the traditional reindeer herders, and in fact, they are Norway's only truly indigenous peoples. Then from Hurtigruten, we come into the city of Kirkenes, and this is where our Viking experience ends. You can actually spend an extra day or two here. Now, Kirkenes is at the very end of Norway. You're only 6 miles from the Russian border. You are 1,100 miles north of Bergen, and you're actually further east than Istanbul. Now, being very close to Russia, they have a very unique relationship here. This, in fact, you are likely to hear Russian being spoken in the city because Russians can come 20 kilometers going into Norway, and Norwegians can go 20 kilometers going inside of Russia. And so there's a very symbiotic relationship here that the Norwegians go across to buy gasoline because Russian gasoline is much cheaper. It's not heavily taxed like it is in Norway. And the Russians come across to buy consumer goods. And believe it or not, one of the most highly exported items out of Kirkenes is disposable diapers. You know, that's some trivia that you can impress your friends. So those folks that were on the Norwegian experience trip, they'll be flying back down to Oslo, and those folks who are just coming for the World War II history portion of the trip will be flying up. So remembering the heroes of World War II. This is actually the 70th anniversary of the occupation of the country, and Norway played a very important part during World War II. So you'll be flying up from Oslo, coming into Kirkenes to begin your cruise, coming back down. In April of 1940, the Germans occupied Denmark and they attacked Oslo, and Norway then joined the war against Hitler. That initially they were a neutral country. However, Germany chose to ignore their neutrality and actually attacked Norway, and actually based a fleet of battleships going that actually hid in the fjords of Norway. And so this is a very, very contested bit of a shoreline here. Also going up around the coastline at Kirkenes, the British were sending ships from the UK going to Murmansk, supplying war goods to the Russians. And Germany would base their battleships and bombers, and actually a vast amount of shipping was actually sunk during the war right off the northern coast of Norway. But it's interesting looking back at these old newspapers and actually reading them. You'll actually you gain a true appreciation. So for those of you going on the trips, if you go to your local library or go online and actually read some of these old newspaper accounts, it really does set the stage for a wonderful trip. So here in Kirkenes, as you see here, this city was actually leveled during World War II between the Allied bombing, and then when the Germans began to be defeated, they actually burned the city to the ground. Now, starting off here, you will actually have an included hotel night here at the Thun Hotel. It's spelled T-H-O-N, but it's pronounced Thun. And it's a very beautiful property, very, very modern in design, and this does include a full breakfast. So you'll be coming into Kirkenes prior to the cruise, be spending the night, have breakfast, and then you'll be doing a walking tour. This was one of the pictures taken during the war of the bombing, and then, like I said before, that when it became clear that they were being defeated, the city was burned to the ground, all except for the church. Now, as part of the tour, too, we'll be actually be visiting some of the original bomb shelters. This is called Anders Grotta, and this is a bomb shelter that has been maintained in its original state. It's very well taken care of, so you can go back and actually where you actually go down in the side of this facility, and you can see how the local residents were able to actually survive the bombings and that. It is a wonderful experience and gives you a true appreciation for what we have today. We also have the Border Museum, and this is a museum that is dedicated to World War II history. This happens to be an old Russian fighter that was sunk into a lake just outside of Kirkenes, and it was retrieved and has actually been restored to almost flying condition. And there's a lot of artifacts and photographs taken back during the war here. They also have a great Sami, or the Native Peoples, exhibit here as well. And this is also an included tour on our World War II history trip. Now, coming down the line, we'll also be visiting the Hammerfest Museum, and the Hammerfest Museum is actually dedicated to the restoration of the country after the war. Most of northern Norway was actually, all the towns were burned to the ground, and so this is a great the displays here actually talk about the resistance movements along with the rebuilding of the cities. When I say the resistance movements here, that Norway had a very active resistance group. You can see some of the old photographs here of the fighters that actually were behind the scenes trying to liberate Norway. And here at Hammerfest, this is where it really comes alive, so that you can get a true appreciation for what these folks went through. Now we're coming down into the Lofoten War Museum, which is at Solvær. And this is probably one of the finest museums for World War II history anywhere within Scandinavia. And it shows the British uniforms, the Norwegian uniforms, the pilots' gear, and that. And it's really kind of a very interesting place that the people who actually work here in the museum, their parents and their relatives were here during the war, and so they really bring things alive. And that's all part of the experience. And so we're trying to convey the sense of history here along with the culture, and it's a great reminder about what we have today in our country. Then coming into the city of Trondheim again, we are able to visit the Nidaros Cathedral. Now again, we're making additional stops along the way, and we have a variety of shore excursions. We have one very unique shore excursion that it's called the Taste of Vesterålen, and it's a full 8-hour trip, but you actually get off the ship for a full 8 hours. You go inland, you use motor coaches and local ferries to cross the fjords, and you catch the ship upline. And this is what makes Hurtigruten so very special and so very unique, in that you can actually experience the interior of the country along with the shorelines. Then coming back into Bergen. So for our World War II history cruise, we do include another overnight along with breakfast, and we have a series of walking tours here as well. During the war, Bergen had a very active U-boat fleet. And in fact, over here on the left-hand side, these are the original World War II subpins. You see the gray concrete there. This concrete was 15 feet thick, if you can imagine that. And it's, we have the Defense Museum here, and so it actually details the civilian along with the military resistance efforts. And also, too, we actually get to visit one of the old forts that overlooks the harbor here. And, of course, this was very important during the time of World War II, and even dating back almost to the days of the Vikings. So there's a lot of history here, and the fact that we include these special excursions, adds a lot to the trip. So, unfortunately, if you couldn't make the other Brekke trip, this is an equally grand substitute, so that you can really learn about the history and the culture that we have along the route here. So included features here in the tours, we have either the 13, 7, or 8-day cruise tour portion. It includes all of your meals while you're on board the ship. It includes your airport transfers and also selected shore excursions, which I had mentioned, whether it be the Viking feast or the various war museums. These tours are included. So we have the exclusive onboard lectures and also selected films. Now, with Dr. Laren, again, he'll just be talking just to our group, and so that so it is a very exclusive kind of event here. So for the Viking Coast, we have the Trondheim Nidaros Cathedral tour. We also have the Viking feast, and we also have two specific lectures where we'll be talking about the Viking culture in one lecture, then also Viking religion and society in the second. And also, too, Dr. Laren will be showing some special documentary films. For the heroes of World War II, we'll be having a one-night stay in Kirkenes and also one in Bergen, complete with breakfast. The airport transfers, the historical walking tour of Kirkenes, which will include the Alders Grotto bomb shelter along with the Border Museum. We'll also have the Hammerfest Museum along with the Lofoten War Museum. And then a half-day guided tour in Bergen. Just a bit about traveling aboard Hurtigruten is that we have a card key system, so this will serve as not only your room key, but also too if you want to buy something in the gift shop or buy a cocktail. Your room key is indeed your credit card, room key, an ID card getting on and off the ship. Dress aboard the cruise is entirely casual. There's no dressing up. It's come as you are. So that so if you want to wear your jeans, you can, or slacks. We always suggest that you dress in layers because once we get up above the Arctic Circle, it can get a little bit chilly. But casual is the word. And when you're going on a holiday, particularly in this part of the world, and doing the kind of things that you're doing, casual is indeed the appropriate dress. We can also take care of special dietary requests such as low sodium, low cholesterol, gluten-free. We're very happy to do that. So you can just simply let your representatives at Brekke know, and they'll put that into your record to make sure that we get the that we can address your dietary concerns. One question that always comes up, it says, well, do you have doctors on board? Well, aboard our Norwegian trips, all of our officers are trained EMTs, but we're always close to shore, and so if there is a serious medical issue, we're never far away from a doctor. If something is really serious, one can always be flown out to the ship via helicopter. And I've watched these practice runs, and these are true professionals. The Norwegian Coast Guard is very adept at taking care of emergencies. And of course, the onboard currency is indeed the Norwegian krone. And right now, the krone is very weak against the dollar. It's dropped about 15% in the value, so that means that your dollar goes further for those additional purchases that you might want to buy when you're in Norway, such as the local souvenirs and books and paintings and the like. We do have complimentary internet on board in the public rooms. We have the European 220-volt standard. Of course, we have the obligatory gift shop, shore excursion desk, and light entertainment. So now I'm going to turn this over to Amanda, and she'll talk a little about Brekke tours and travel. So, Amanda?
All right, thanks, Dean. So, yes, we hope that some of you guys can join us this summer as Hurtigruten set sail north on their Viking Heritage Tour, or south on the Heroes of World War II. So just a little bit about us. We are here to help you get your plans off the ground, whether it's land or sea. So if you are interested in joining one of these cruises, or if you would like to combine one of these cruises with the land package, please give us a call. We are more than welcome to help put that together for you. So I guess at this time we can open it up for questions. There's my information on screen if you need it. If there's anything that we don't answer for you today, you can feel free to contact us either at that phone number or by email at tours@brekketours.com. So, Dean, I actually don't see any questions. I don't know if you do or not.
No, unfortunately I don't. So folks, if you have your little chat box there, if you'd like to ask us any questions, feel free. Just in closing here, the Viking trip departs on September 2nd from Bergen, and again, you can take the full round trip, or you can actually take it one way going from Bergen up to Kirkenes, and the World War II trip actually starts on September 7th, and you cruise back southbound. Now, the opening prices for that, the Viking cruise, it starts at $21.99 per person, and the World War II history cruise starts at $22.99. And so that is the base price. That does not include air, but again, it does include all of those items that I had mentioned prior to the special shore excursions, where there's hotel stays included in Bergen and Kirkenes. It does include those as well.
That's a really great value for your travel money. I mean, I don't know that you can get a better deal than that.
Well, it's there's an old saying, you get what you pay for. And in the case of Hurtigruten and Brekke tours, this is our way of life, that we truly believe in delivering the kind of experience that you would expect from a professional company, because we've been in business for 121 years, and this says a lot about our culture and what we do to actually deliver the product. Well, folks, if we don't have any questions here, you have the email address here, so if you do have any questions, you can address those to Amanda. She'll be more than happy to get you answers back. And we look forward to seeing you aboard Hurtigruten, and whether it be the Viking experience or World War II history, we believe that we have a lot to offer, and something that will give you a trip of a lifetime. So without further ado, we want to thank you very much for coming with us today. Amanda, thank you for allowing us to talk to your customers, and we look forward to seeing you.
Well, thanks, Dean, and thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about these cruises. And like I said, if there's any questions that we can help answer, or if we can help you get these plans on the way for you, then please give us a call or send us an email. We'll be glad to help.
Okay, that was 800-437-5302.
That's right.
Okay. Again, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.